Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening to our lecturer, Sir Muhammad Rizwan bin Hashim and my fellow friends. Today we are from Group C would like to present Seminar 1 Supply Chain Management. The presentation will be presented by group members, including myself as first presenter. I am Farah Najwa, followed by the next presenter, Zuraini, Nur Nadia and Nur Afrina. Without further ado, I will start with definition of supply chain management. Supply chain management is the centralized management of the flow of goods and services and includes all processes that transform from raw materials into delivering final products to consumer. It involves an active management of supply chain activities in order to maximize customer value and gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace. Next, history of supply chain management. In 1905, supply chain is attributed in the newspaper called The Independent. Prior to it, the concept of network of supplies, producer or manufacturer and customer has been around for quite some time. However, supply chain management wasn't coined until 1980, so the field is still young compared to the related areas such as procurement, logistics, and manufacturing, which all of these areas play a role in supply chain management. In early stages, the first example of production with a truly global supply network was most likely rum. The supply chain in this case started with the slaves who were moved from Africa to the Caribbean to grow the sugarcane, which came from India and ended industrialized in the United States. Asian empires across the from Peru to Rome left their mark on the development of logistics as a field in its own right, introducing roads, organized labor, transport, and armies. All of this required a massive organization effort, considering their land, human resources, food supplies, and property. From these ancient times up until 18th century, all part of supply chain were kept mostly in local due to lack of larger transport option and the high cost of moving goods around the world. In the late 1920s, introduction of mass production along assembly lines laid the foundation for supply chain management, first successfully implemented by Ford. The idea of producing consistent product on a large scale with increased efficiency changed trade and supply chain irreversibly. For example, containerization or container shipping not only increase the quantity of available space for goods, but also increase the speed of the freight movement while decreasing the cost. The speed increase came from more effective warehousing processes as well as transport terminal efficiency. Secondly, barcoding was another game changer for the industry, finally being used in a commercial context in the 1970s, despite being patented more than 20 years above. Its adoption was spurred forward by standard requiring an identifying number from the U.S. National Association of Food Chains and subsequent research showing large increases in profit from point-scale scanning. Next, the innovation of the personal computer in 1980s was the catalyst for newer technologies that impact supply chain management immensely, such as spreadsheets, optimization models, algorithms that could predict logistic issues for supply chains. This solved problems with planning, resource management, and forecasting, as well as making oversight of the entire supply chain easier to visualize, save, and share. Because of the faster and stronger computers, it was closely followed by the development of systems such as Enterprise Resource Planning System and EDI, which is Electronic Data Interchange, were introduced decades earlier. Therefore, all parts of supply chain can now fall under the public or law, in which the scope of supply chain management has grown to include dealing with the big data and having access to the real-time visibility. Next, objective of supply chain management. The main objective of supply chain management is to improve efficiency by coordinating the efforts of the various entities in the supply chain. This can result in a company achieving a competitive advantage over its rivals and enhancing the quality of products that it produces, which this can lead increase in the sales and revenues. Next, to monitor the production, distribution, and shipment of products and services. For instance, controlling manufacturing processes can improve product quality, reducing the risk of recalls and lawsuits, while helping build a strong consumer brand. At the same time, controls over shipping procedure can improve customer service by avoiding costly shortage or periods of inventory oversupply. Moving on to the importance of supply chain management. Why is it important, especially for companies with large and international operation? First and foremost, identify potential problems. When a customer orders more product than the manufacturer can deliver, the buyer mostly can complain of the poor service. Because of that, the manufacturer can recognize the problem immediately through the data analysis, where the manufacturer may be able to anticipate the shortage before the buyer is disappointed with the services provided. Secondly, optimizing price dynamically. Seasonal products have a limited shelf life. At the end of the season, these products are typically scrapped or sold at a deep discount. For example, airlines and hotel industry, they have a perishable products which typically adjust prices dynamically to meet the demand. By using the supply chain management, similar forecasting techniques can improve the margins even for their own non-perishable goods. Thirdly, improving the allocation of the available to promise inventory. Technological advances such as analytical software tools help to dynamically allocate the resources and schedule work based on the sales forecast, actual orders, and promised delivery of raw materials. In that case, manufacturer can confirm a product delivery date when the order is placed, thus significantly reducing incorrectly filled orders. Lastly, better distribution. Supply chain management can maximize the efficiency of the distribution site. Marketer or distributor can achieve an optimized level of distribution by utilizing all the resources properly.
Before we proceed to the supply chain management process, we have to know which parties are involved in this process. The organization involved are suppliers, logistic management company, distribution handling, retailers, manufacturer, and warehousing. In the above figure, we can see the flow of goods and services and information from the producer to the consumer. The process starts with the strategic planning, which consists of demand and supply planning. And then we move to the procurement process, manufacturing process, warehousing process, transportation process, and lastly is the return process. I will explain more the details of the strategic planning. To meet the customer's demand, supply chain managers have to plan ahead by forecasting the demand, designing the supply chain internationally, and determine how the organization will measure the supply chain to ensure it is performing as expected in terms of efficiency, delivering value for the customer, and helping to achieve the organizational goals. Demand planning includes the forecasting future demand based on historical data and judgmental data. Effective demand planning can improve the accuracy of revenue forecast, align the inventory level with the pace and through in the demand, and enhance profitability for a particular channel or product. Next is supply planning, where it determines the best way to fulfill the requirement created from the demand plan. In supply planning, the supplier management and collaboration and production scheduling are the critical elements to ensure the supply and demand are balanced to achieve the financial and service objective of the enterprise. The second step is the procurement process, which identifies the vendors who will procure goods and services to meet planned and actual demands in the most economical way. It also involves the process of ordering, receiving, managing inventories, and authorizing the invoice payment for the suppliers. Next, we move on to the next step, which is the product manufacturing process. In the manufacturing process, the supply chain facilitates the transfer and transformation of the raw material into the finished product. From there, the manufacturer transports and distributes the product to a retailer or directly to a consumer. Like every other process in the supply chain, Product manufacturing involves plenty of coordination, collaboration, and decision making. After that is the warehouse process, where it is a place where the raw material, semi-finished, and finished products are stored and managed. There are two types of warehouses, which are general warehouses for the long-term storage and distribution warehouses for the short-term storage. A good supply chain warehouse has efficient storage capabilities, a strong security, and inventory accountability. The next step is the transportation. Transportation in a supply chain refers to the movement of products from one location to another, which begins at the start of the supply chain as materials make their way to the warehouse and continues all the way to the end user with the customer's order delivered at the doorstep. The last process is the return management process. In return management, supply chain managers need to develop a network that supports returning products known as reverse logistics. This is to minimize the potential decline of relationship with the customers. This includes scrapping or reproducing a defective product, which means returning a product to the warehouse, and this network need to be responsible and flexible to support the customer's need. Actually, supply chain management are at around us. I can take an example from our favorite fast food restaurant, McDonald's. An analysis of McDonald's Corporation indicates that it is a fast food retail chain store based in the US, and it is known as the world's largest chain of hamburger fast food restaurant. Supply chain of McDonald's indicates that the core suppliers of the company can be categorized into two major types of suppliers, including Tier 1 suppliers and Tier 2 suppliers. Tier 1 category are suppliers that provide processed food, and Tier 2 comprises of suppliers that are mainly growers and processors. The processed food and the raw materials are being shipped through the logistics services provider to the distribution center by using refrigerated and multi-temperature truck to keep the freshness of the materials. When the requirement for such materials at restaurant, they are being ordered to the distribution center, which lead to their transportation via logistic management system across the company. Materials as delivered to the company from the distribution centers are then processed finally for their consumption by the final consumer through the McDonald's. The management of supply chain is ensured at McDonald's with a view to achieving timely delivery of finished product to their final consumers.
Now, I'm Afrina will explain the pros and cons of the supply chain management. The first advantage of supply chain management is to reduce operating costs because it can help company to lower various costs like transportation costs, warehousing costs, packaging costs, and any wastage costs. It then will increase profitability of a company. For example, purchasing costs can be reduced as the retailer quickly deliver their product to avoid bearing holding costs longer than necessary. Next is higher efficiency rate. Supply chain management will increase the efficiency rate of a company as they are able to react right away. If there are any issue or problem occur, it helps prevent any delay of business process. The company will ensure that all materials are timely acquired for facilitating uninterrupted production of product. Besides, company can plan in advance any solution. For example, they can implement backup plans such as sourcing materials from other backup vendors to avoid delay. The first advantage of supply chain management is to reduce operating costs because it can help company to lower various costs like transportation costs, warehousing costs, packaging costs, and any wastage costs. It then will increase profitability of a company. For example, purchasing costs can be reduced as the retailer quickly deliver their product to avoid bearing holding costs longer than necessary. Next is higher efficiency rate. Supply chain management will increase the efficiency rate of a company as they are able to react right away. If there are any issue or problem occur, it helps prevent any delay of business process. The company will ensure that all materials are timely acquired for facilitating uninterrupted production of product. Besides, company can plan in advance any solution. For example, they can implement backup plans such as sourcing materials from other backup vendors to avoid delay. Another advantage is better collaboration. Supply chain management can bring a better collaboration among distinct parties of business. It focuses on establishing a suitable communication channel inside the company to avoid misunderstanding and disagreement. It is important to have the ability to communicate, as supply chain managers are able to use this accurate, timely, and relevant information to reduce costs, boost asset productivity, as well as to improve customer service. It will smooth the flow of information among all stakeholders like employees, customer, and supplier, then enhance understanding which lead to create a better collaboration. Lastly, easily identify problem areas because supply chain management can bring companies to recognize any issue that is adversely affecting its reputation and profitability. Supply chain manager can monitor every department performance and identify which department is lacking in implementing its duties. In absence of this concept, companies will find it difficult to find problem areas as every department will blame each other departments for any delay and failure that erupts. Now we move on to the disadvantages of supply chain management. First is lack of top management commitment and support. Top management support is identified as the most important facilitator for implementation of supply chain management. The importance of top management can be seen when looking at the several barriers such as incompatible technological system, lack of common supply chain management perspective, dispute among supply chain management, and inadequate employee skill. Certainly, this barrier can be brought down with the strong top management support. Second is lack of coordination between various departments. Supply chain management can only operate if all the company's departments work together, and if departments are at a loggerhead, the system will collapse. Unclear organization decision can create challenges and confusion to employees in terms of design and daily management of supply chains. For example, problem will arise if the marketing department does not inform the production department about the possible order, or if they fail to identify the best supply chain partner and the period to finish the product. The third disadvantage of supply chain management is alignment barriers. Misalignment and fragmentation create a problem for the supply chain management, maybe due to the inconsistent goal and poor measurement practices. For example, incongruent goals between lead managers and company will make the process stunted and it's difficult for company to reach their final goal. Each organization may struggle to appreciate strategy orientation and goals that are not identical to their own. This will give a negative impact to the overall process and it will affect the company's performance. Last but not least, it's complicated. It's complicated in the eyes of top management and employees. Besides, employees may feel insecure and demotivated as they might feel supply chains may hamper or disrupt their normal working of the company. And usually, employees resist any new things and changes that will affect their work.
Moving to the next part, there are several critical elements of a successful supply chain. The first is the design. When we are building the supply chain, we should choose the design which is fit-for-purpose model instead of one-size-fits-all model. The aim for choosing the fit-for-purpose model is to align our supply chain with the company's corporate strategy and the operations model to ensure the quality of the operation itself. The second element is focus on the end user. Before investing in the asset, in the process, system, or people, we must first understand our end customer's need and ensure that our end-to-end supply chain is consistent to meet those needs. For example, to deliver an online shipment within 24 hours, there are various elements must be synchronized, including the planning, the production, the warehousing, the sales, and finally the logistics to ensure that our customers' expectations are met. The third element is the full integration, where we can see the supply chain need to be integrated not just within the company but also across the suppliers, the co-manufacturers, the third-party logistic providers, and even the consumer. For example, by using the sensors on the product, the pallets, the trucks, the containers, and even more, can enable the real-time track and trace to facilitate this integration. So, with the presence of the full integration between all the parties, it will be easy for the management to communicate if there is any adjustment or modifications to be made. The fourth element is the innovation. For the optimal supply chain performance, the innovation and the supply chain should work hand in hand. This means that when there are new products to be developed, the supply chain function must be included in the conceptual stage to make sure that the product design support the supply chain function. For example, when we designing a new product, we need to consider how the product will be shipped to optimize the cost. The business can apply the innovation skill to design the packaging so that it can help in the logistic cost saving while it still can meet the customer's expectations. The last critical element is the performance measurement. The performance measurement system can be used to reach the common goals of the supply chain optimization, where we can measure it by looking at the standard process framework. Once the process have been identified, thus the monitoring for the cost effectiveness, the employee's productivity, the process efficiency, the cycle time, and even the quality can be developed. So by combining all these aspects, it will result in a successful supply chain that is flexible and expandable, and also to ensure the survival of the company even in the stressful situations. The next part is about what supply chain management system option do the medium-sized business have. That means what kind of software do the business can use to implement the supply chain management. So there are several supply chain software that can be used by the medium-sized business. One of them is the ERP software. Under the ERP, there are several products such as the SSERP and the Orchestra. For the SSERP, it is an end-to-end ERP which aims to reduce the time spent on the administrative tasks by providing a single platform that combines the financial monitoring and reporting with the purchasing and the stock management. It helps in bringing the material resource planning, which is MRP, and the production software together in a single cloud-based platform. The second product under the ERP is the Orchestra. The software removes the manual process that make it difficult to run a lean operation with a clear view of our plan, stock, and the resources. For example, the supply chain management can be implemented by using the Gantt chart so that it will help to create the most effective schedules for our operations. It is designed to simplify the daily operation and allow us to manage every aspect of our batch manufacturing processes from the start until finish. Other than ERP software, the cloud-based software also can help in the management of the supply chain. Under the cloud-based software, there are Zero plus Unleashed software. It is a combination that allows us to track the inventory in the real time, from the purchasing to the warehousing, through the sales and the delivery of the product. The data is instantly sent to Zero, where it is synchronized between the two platforms, which is the customers and the suppliers' database informations, to making the stakeholders management easier. Moving to the next part, as a conclusion, the supply chain management is an important part for every organization as it improves the effectiveness, efficiency, and the management of the resources. It integrates and combines all the business activities, paying attention to each and every step along the way to achieve the customer satisfaction and the company's desired outcome. So every enterprise should start implementing the supply chain management in their business operation to ensure that they are able to sustain and compete intensely in the industry. Last but not least, with the current industry changes, the business can take the advantage of the collaboration through the partnership, the technologies, and also the other method, because this approach will bring the business leading to the improved customer service and the supply chain management.